because the type of music you were playing fusion, with Pat, kind of fusion music, and people could hear the cymbals a lot, but not that much the snare drum on the toms. And you were you are a great drummer, but of course you were within the restriction of a band, right? It so happened that be Pat Metheny, could have been Supertramp, it could have been Peter Gabriel, but you were in that box, but you are a lot. I studied your career. I have a lot of record for you. You have fed me over the years and so forth. And you are a great drummer. And of course, people associate, this is Paul is like a fusion type of guy, jazz, soft jazz, but you could have done very well in a rock and roll type of band. If my point makes sense, so for
Oh, it
people.
makes total sense. I mean, sometimes I do feel a little frustrated that people think of me as like the happy cymbal guy that
That's right.
never plays a bass drum or something.
All
You
right.
know, but that's not, I mean, that's what it was for what it was, but because it was more popular than many other things I did, then you get typecast. It's just the same, like I always say, like with an actor, if someone's, gets in a TV show or a movie that's real popular, that person's always going to be thought about as that type of actor, as opposed to the other things that they can do. But, it's better than not ever being recognized, because there's great actors everywhere. So let me finish my point. So, yeah, I could have been many other things. And if anyone wants to explore the other things I did or keep on doing for that matter, I mean, you saw uh, the Lyle Mays thing when he was in my band where we're playing Time Impulse. I mean,
That's right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, Lyle's playing like free on that one, basically,
Yeah.
and the sax player, Rich Corpolongo's a genius. He's like 80 years old. We're still friends, but no, a lot of people don't know who he is because he never got those kind of, record that would make him popular or at least recognized by a bigger audience. I mean, it's really the luck of the draw. It's like winning a lottery in some ways for talented musicians to be able to get in a band that's going to all of a sudden break through and sell a lot of records so a lot of people know who they are.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, yeah, so sometimes it's frustrating for me to think that people only think of me as one way, but at least I think for me, people always think of me as a musical drummer, and that's good too because if people think of you as the fastest drummer in town, then that's kind of stupid because there's always going to be a faster drummer, as technicians get faster. But if you think about a musical thing, that just means that you played good music for when you played it, and I think that's very lucky.
Absolutely. And I think Pat Metheny at the time was using a sequencer. And when a sequencer, is in the background, do you have a little bit of room to improvise, like a 5% left or right to do more thing, or you are very restricted on what, because you cannot go fast. I suppose you cannot go faster or slower, but you can be a little ahead. Usually the drummer is like, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but a second or 2 seconds ahead of everybody, right? In a
Not
particular.
as not a second. I mean, we're talking about milliseconds.
Yeah, wait a second. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when you're playing with a sequence. I'm here. I'll explain to everybody.
Yeah.
So if you play in real time, people can breathe together. So things can go up and down a little bit in the tempo, even though you want the tempo overall to stay usually the same. If you play with a click track
Yeah.
and you're playing, and you can play dead center or you can play in back or in front and move it around,
Yeah.
if you're listening to the other musicians, but the click track disappears. So then people only hear your track with the other musicians, okay? And then you have the sequencer, where if the sequencer is in the final track, you have to stay with the sequencer. Because if you drift too far from the sequencer, you're going to sound like you're rushing or dragging. So the main thing with the sequencer then, which we used on probably 70, 80% of the even live stuff, is that you can micro improvise, you can change things, but they
Mm,
always have to stay in time, you know. And the other
mm,
thing is that, say, if you're playing live and the sequencer is set to like three courses of guitar, two of, keyboards, no matter if it's a good night or bad night, it's going to be three and two. It's not like when you play live, you might say, "Oh, this is a great night. Oh, now we're going to have five guitar courses or 20 guitar courses."
mm.
So, it's like problem solving in real time. And I tell my students all the time, when they talk about, like, or their parents say, why should they get a jazz degree? Well, when you think about music, it is about problem solving. When you play jazz, it's living in the moment. And if you're in the music business, it's living in the moment too, because things change. So you become good at problem solving. And then when you play with a sequencer, you're still problem solving, but at a little more of a micro level than just saying, oh, now I can stop or now I can speed up and double time. And, it doesn't always work. So for me, I like it all. I mean, if you look at all the hundreds of records I'm on, they go from click tracks to no click tracks to sequencers to arrangements to 100% spontaneously composed. It's all fun. It all makes life fulfilling.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, it's a very good explanation. Recently, well, no, not so recent, but the Paul Wertico Trio, we just released a new CD, celebrate the trio's 25th, 26th anniversary, and that's a great CD, man. That I listen to your music. I really, you have played with so many people, so it's hard to pick do an interview with this period, that period. So I kind of pick stuff that are appealing to me. But the Paul Vertigo trio is a very good stuff, and as opposed to a quartet or playing with more people. And you
Well,
you yeah,
no,
go
it's
ahead.
cool. I mean, thanks for doing all the research. It
No problem.
makes me really happy because then we can talk about things that I want to talk about too.
Sure,
Now,
sure.
and trio is fun because, you know, if you do a solo, then you're 100% of everything. If you
Yeah.
do a duo, then, it's 50%, or 40, 60, or whatever. If you do a trio, it's what, 33 and a third, or, it moves around. The more people you have, the more stuff you have to deal with. So I've got two trios. I've got the Paul Wertico trio based in Chicago, which is a guitar, bass, drums trio, which John Mulder usually plays guitar, and then bass would be Eric Hochberg or Larry Gray. And then there's the Italian trio, which is piano, bass, and drums. So that's
Yeah.
Fabrizio Moncada, Gianmarco Scaglia, and myself. And yeah, I mean, all of it just allows me to play and enjoy the conversation with people I like to converse with. And the other thing which is interesting, like Word of Cocaine and Gray, for instance, you know, it's I don't always like to necessarily have to play. If I'm playing jazz, does it have to be with just jazz players? I like people that bring in different things. So, like, for instance, Fabrizio Moncada is an incredible piano player, but he comes out of tango just as much as he comes out of jazz. Or David Kane comes out of like more like, I guess, just compositional elements than opposed to like jazz, and that brings out certain elements of the music that allows me to kind of go, oh yeah, we don't have to necessarily be stuck in a genre, not that
Mm,
I ever would anyway, but it allows the music we're playing to be more open to all these different sounds as
mm,
opposed to genre specific things.
mm. Absolutely. And also, I want to say something obvious, but it with music, right? You can be playing a gig with the trio or in Tokyo where perhaps people don't speak English, or in South America where people speak Spanish, and they don't have to speak the language. They can listen, to great music, right? Man, this is great. It's a lot of work, put it together, be synchronized, and so on and so forth. And the guys look to one another, they don't talk, and they go to the next track, and or you do your solo, then the bass player start behind you, after you, or whatever. It's a language on its own, it's a beautiful thing, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, it is really like a universal language.
right, yeah.
And even if we don't speak it the same way, so if you do play with someone from a different country that might have different influences, when you play, you're able to, kind of just communicate again. I feel the same way even like when I tour. Unfortunately, I'm not multilingual. That's not one of my talents. So, but I've never had a problem communicating with anyone from any country because for one thing, you go, I don't know, so you say, I'm sorry, I don't speak your language. And then the next thing you know, they might speak your language, which is great, and many other countries speak English. But even if they don't, there's somehow you can maneuver each other to go,
Mm.
okay, yeah, okay, now we can work together. I mean, it's really not that hard. That's the thing. I mean, people make it so like this is this and this is that. God, it just drives me crazy about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, some of the new records. I mean, I'm sure you're going to talk about that, but like
Sure.
the Marvin record, Marbinico, you
Yeah,
know,
I will go in. Yeah,
yeah, you know, that's like one of my favorite records I've ever done. There's no drum fills on it or anything. It's
right,
just a
yeah.
beautiful record. But then sometimes I've seen a couple reviews, which have been positive reviews, but someone will say, "Oh, Marvin, who usually plays more like hardcore, like rock, fusion, jazz rock, now they're playing straight ahead jazz." That's not straight ahead jazz. There's no straight ahead bing ding a ding on that record. But people go, oh, it's not loud, it's not complicated time signatures. It must be straight ahead jazz. So many people they don't understand like a lot of stuff. I mean, and unless you go back in history and really kind of understand where things come from, who the great players were in those different genres and how they even morphed into creating new genres, sometimes I go, oh my God, just because someone can say something on the internet doesn't mean anything now, because they
Totally, right.
really, even if their best intentions are great, a lot of times young, especially young people or people that are really stuck in like heavy metal or fusion or jazz or whatever, they kind of don't understand these other things. And unless they listen to all those other things, what they say is going to be very peculiar, and you're going to go, "Oh my God, thank you for the nice compliment, but that's not what it was at all." You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing you said, or one of the first things you said in this interview, you're not a musician, so you opened yourself up to the fact that you won't only understand what you understand because of what you understand, but you have 15,000, LPs. So
Yeah.
then, okay, well, then this guy now has more of this, as opposed to someone goes, oh, I only listen to this music, and you must be this because you're not
Sure, sure,
what I listen to. And
sure.
then, oh man, come on.
Sure. I listen to jazz, to rock, to pop. I have film score, soundtrack, at least 700, and opera. There's music I don't like that much, but on a day to day, on a weekly basis, I listen to a lot of different things. I'm always buying. I'm always looking for something that is appealing to me. Either the music I like it's appealing to me, it resonates with me, or if I don't, but I'm always given to give it a try. And of course, I have my favorite, right? The Led Zeppelin, the Pink Floyd, the Coldplay, and
Mhm.
Pat Metheny, and many, many, many others. I like. I'm drawn to the stuff. But I listen to a lot of different things. Some weeks when I drive to work, I take CDs that I bought the week before, the week after, whatever, because I have to catch up with the time I buy, and it's great. I mean, I listen to every record with an open mind, and man, the drummer probably wasn't that great, or the guitar player wasn't that great as compared to other stuff. But I try to take everything on its own merits, right? Not to compare, because then it's boring, right? I mean, you need to evolve as a musician. All the Genesis album, they're different to one another. Otherwise, they're doing the same thing seven times. People would say, "Man, this band used to be that great, but now they're doing this kind of music." Well, that was 10 years ago. And it's a new member. Somebody left. They hired somebody else. It's a new singer or whatever, and it's great music. It's different, but it's great, and they need to be different. Otherwise, what's the point of a writer writing the same book every 3 years again, the same story, So I don't know. We need to be happy and don't put much attention to some of the critics. But the album is very good. The other stuff that I really like, besides Marvin Nico, is the newly released Congruence. That actually
Oh,
that was recorded, I think, in the 80s, right?
yeah,
With Johnny, with Mike and Eric. I didn't know what how to explain with that. And I said, man, it's not bad.
well,
Only a couple track, but yeah.
what's funny about that is that, there's more cuts of different songs. I mean, but Howard just decided to put that out. And yeah, that was just done one night in the 1980s. Johnny Frigo was this amazing violinist. So yesterday he would have been 108. Okay. But as a bass player, he was a session bass player. I remember reading, I don't know if it's true anymore, but he was like the most recorded bass players on jingles. He did something like 20,000 jingles. I mean, the guy was just this genius, a great musician. He had a great family. He had a son, Rick Frigo, who was a great drummer who's passed. And then Howard, I've been playing with him for, since the 70s. I'm so glad he finally put that out because if you listen to that, we're really straight ahead. I mean, it's very,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it could be like, Kenny Clark playing drums or something. I mean,
Mm.
it's like it swings, but we're not trying to do anything other than just make that music successful in what it was. We're not trying to go into 5/4 or go into some like Afro-Cuban groove, right? It just swings, which is beautiful. So that's another side that a lot of people might not know that I can do, because with Pat, we never really played a lot of like straight ahead stuff. I mean, we did with the special quintet or special quartet rather, and a couple things, but most people don't even know that we did all that kind of stuff too. So people know me from the Pat Metheny Group as being sort of this, I don't know, versatile, but more symbolist kind of drummer that could play in all these odd meters and everything. But no, I love playing straight ahead rock. I love playing straight ahead jazz. I love playing, I love playing everything, man, because it's just an expression of the moment. And if you're playing with great musicians, it's like a beautiful experience that you'll always treasure that you were lucky enough to be able to participate in.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Feel free to elaborate on your Bliss vertical ride, flat ride, actually, the 20 inches and the 22. How that came about. I mean, that's an honor for somebody, a company or, an enterprise create like a special, symbol for you. And I saw a couple of videos that you did on YouTube and where you're, playing different things. And it's amazing, man. It's amazing. It's such an honor, man, for you to have your own.
Well, I mean, absolutely. Thank you. I mean, because, I had like, my signature stick with ProMark and, the
Mm.
tubes and stuff. But, I always wanted to have a signature flat ride because I'm known for my flat ride playing.
Right. Yeah.
And the other company, like, damn, no, we don't do that. So what happened, I got with Bliss back, several years ago before COVID. And I didn't even know much about Dream Cymbals. I mean, seriously, I was in Italy. I had to come home and then go to Minneapolis for a clinic and then go back to Italy. So I was doing this clinic and somebody from Dream Cymbals was, oh, maybe you should try our cymbals because I didn't have any cymbals with me because I was between cymbal companies. And he
Okay.
goes, and I played them and I went, oh my God, I love these things. So I got to be an endorser and I talked to Andy Morris, who own stream cymbals. I said, man, I want to have a signature flat ride. So we worked together to develop this thing.
Mm.
And, and then COVID hits, of course, So then now that COVID has been gone, we've been able to keep going. And so I was able to get a cymbal that not only sounds and records great, but feels great when you play, because some cymbals sound great, but they're more like playing on a piece of metal. These things, what are they called? They're called the bronze 20, which means that they're 80% bronze, I think 20% tin and other metals. So
Yeah.
that's like the highest alloy combination that you can get. So that's why they cost what they do. But they are a dream for me. I seriously, on all these records, I've just used them on like 7 new records. And the funny thing is, the ones I used on these records were the rejects. Not the ones that we prototyped from, but the ones that we didn't prototype from, because
Really?
of them were so incredible. Yeah. And so I'm just thrilled to have these things out. I think anybody that wants to have a flat ride, you should buy these. And the other thing I explained to how to play a flat ride, or even a cymbal in general, but a flat ride specifically, because I was just at the Percussive Art Society convention called PASIC in November, and that's where we were premiering these cymbals. And people would sometimes come up and they go ding, 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 and they go crash, crash, crash. Oh, okay. And I'm going, no, that's two sounds, man. And then I showed them how to dance on the cymbal.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh my God, really? You can do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's how you play a cymbal. And if you have a good cymbal like these Wertico rides, you can play all this incredible stuff on there." And they're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea." So again, goes back to, what you're exposed to, what your knowledge is of not only history but of technique. Because, the old drummers, they used to dance, they used to tap dance on the drums,
That's
and
right.
then the fusion drummers, rock, they hit the drums, they, pound on them. And so if you pound on something, you get a certain sound or a certain couple sounds. But if you dance on them, you get like so many different colors and sounds. So a lot of it is really about, you know, you know, a cymbal is a piece of metal, it's just, and you're hitting it with a piece of wood. So what can you get out of this thing? It's up to you to really be able to get it to sound something, it's the cymbal itself that has the potential to do all these things, but
Yeah.
unless you know how to release the potential of this piece of metal, then you have to find out how to do it. And if you don't, then you're going to think, oh, it's just a piece of metal. I'll hit another piece of metal instead.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen many drummers and videos about drumming in general, and nowadays many drumming play the sticks too hard. If I'm saying this correctly, how are you able to control what works for you? Is no, because otherwise, if you do that for 50 years or whatever happened to Phil Collins, right, of hitting the ground so hard, and I'm quite sure in your elbow and in the wrist, it or in the back, play a toll on you. If you do it once a week versus 50 years or 55 years you've been playing drums, it makes a big difference, right? So it can have a lot of repercussion, and then you end up going to physical therapy, a chiropractor, and I imagine, right? So
Great question. Yeah, I mean, what happened, if you look at the older drummers, they barely hold the sticks, and
yeah,
the stick is just, it's like, stick is a shock absorber.
that's right.
So if you hold the stick loose, you get this beautiful sound out of what you're hitting, and
Mm.
then you get no like shock down your tendons and everything. But a lot of these people, like rock drummers, they hold the sticks tight, or they
Yeah.
hit so hard and they're
Mm.
using such physicality that musically it sounds like, quadruple exclamation marks. It sounds like I'm talking, no, everything I'm talking is like this. There's no dynamics in it anymore.
Sure. Sure.
And physicality wise, it's going right up here and it's gonna blow out everything. So if you really know how to play, you see all these guys in their 80s or even 90s, you see Roy Haynes still playing, he just died, like last month, but these guys knew how to play the instrument. They knew how to touch the stick and let the stick do the work as opposed to pounding like a caveman. So
That's
like if you're a 20-year-old caveman, okay, fine. 30-year-old caveman, oh, maybe not so good. 70-year-old caveman, good luck, unless genetically you're able to do that, all that stuff is going to pile up, It's just like you look at sports, like you look at soccer or football,
yeah,
either American football or regular football, these guys are incredible until later on they can't walk anymore, or their necks are messed up, or they've got concussions, you know,
yeah.
that stuff, man, that's going to catch up with you. But if you play an instrument correctly, unless you hurt yourself doing something, you should be able to play. I still feel like I'm 18. I'm faster than ever. It's effortless for me to play, I don't
Good,
have physical
good for
thing.
you. Good
Yeah,
for you. Yeah. I was listening to a great album from you, of course, yesterday, Paul Wertico with John Helliwell project. I
Hmm.
think they called the Barry session, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Man, that is great. This is very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. I listened to it like two times.
Well, John Helliwell, I mean, he's going to be 80, you know, coming up. And a lot of people know him from Supertramp. I mean, I
Well,
love Supertramp. Those songs are great. The lyrics are great. What he
yeah.
played on clarinet and sax is great. But he's a great jazz player. He's got a beautiful tone. Um, yeah, that band, I mean, that's how I started going to Italy so much. That's a really interesting story if you want to know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Once the internet started happening and I had email on internet, in 2008, all of a sudden I got this email from some guy named Ramondo Mellalupe. And he goes, Paul, I'm a big fan. I'm a guitar player. He was the owner of Ram Records. He goes, um, do you want to come and do a gig with John Helliwell, the sax player from Supertramp, and this bass player, Gianmarco Scalia? And I was like, sure. So I go over there. I brought my wife and daughter actually, and we did like a week of gigs. And I was thrilled. I'm thinking, oh my God, John Helliwell is from Supertramp. I love Supertramp. And then that became these friendships, you know, that are still around. I mean, so Ramondo is this great guitar player that's also a monarch in Italy. I mean, he's got like this mansion with a golf course, and I mean, it's like it opened up all these doors for me to meet not only Gianmarco, but also then Fabrizio Moccata, and then all these other people in Italy that are calling me and having me do records. So, I got rather than just say, I don't know who this guy is. Oh, I'm erase this email. I wrote back and I said, sure, give me more information. And that's the other thing is that so many times there's, life opens up these doors for you and you have to pick the right ones. And for one thing, you want to respect everybody. So if you don't want to do something, get back to them and say, I'm sorry, I can't do this or whatever.
Mm.
But then if you do accept things, you never know what's going to open up. It's an amazing Pandora's box of stuff that can actually be available to you if you're able to take advantage of them and be happy enough that it works out to the advantage of everybody, not only you, but to everyone.
Yeah. How difficult is to play with people that you never seen before with different type of music. Yeah, I know you from Supertron. I know you play some gig with that guy, and I know he, but it, five of you doing, you say, a week worth of gigs, 7 days in different cities in Italy, and how you do it? How you? It's not that you have listened to music. Okay, send me all the track a couple weeks so I can learn my part and so on and so forth. Versus going there. Okay, let's have fun and within one afternoon, okay, you're doing your thing and Johnny doing his thing and so on and so forth. For me, it's like a mystery because I'm not a musician, so
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I always tell my students that the music plays you. So
That's
you
right.
don't
Oh, yeah.
necessarily have to come up with a part. I mean, sometimes, a song might need a part, but most of the music I play just needs me to interpret it as we go along, to be
Yeah.
a composer. So whether it's a composition and I'm putting my version of a composition in that composition, or if it's free improvisation, then it's free spontaneous composition. It's basically about just having a conversation with people, whether you know them or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's a language. That's basically, so it's not about, oh, I must do this, I have to do this. I mean, I guess for some music and some people that might have that specific way of thinking, they need to do that. They need to be comfortable and play the same thing over and over again. But there's times I've had to do that. But in general, for me, I've been lucky enough that just people call me, not as a drummer, but to have me. They want Paul Wertico on drums.
Yeah.
And then I bring my personality and I go with their personalities. Next thing you know, we're dancing together.
That's right. That's right. Dancing to the music. Also.
Yeah.
The drums without boundaries.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'm quite sure you must have many stories about that. I
Oh, my.
found it very weird at the beginning. So I listened to it a couple of times, three times, some tracks, and it started making sense. It's very different. Okay, it's very different for what I know you for, and I really like it. I dig it after two or three times. I was listening to that on Thursday when we spoke on the phone to coordinate the interview, and I really like it. And you must have many stories about that
Oh my God.
particular.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole. I mean, I think Don Lombardi from Drum Workshop interviewed me. We talked about that for about a half hour, you
Which
know.
hasn't that.
Yeah. No, I mean that was a thing where, again, like with the Italian connections, one thing leads to another. So Gianmarco Scalia, the bass player, he wanted me to do a record with him with a guitar player and a vibe player. And we did. We just went over there for a day or two, and we came up with a really great record called Dynamics in Meditation. So the vibe player, Mirko Pendroti, he contacted me and he said, "Man, there's this really good percussion ensemble here called Ichos Percussion. We'd love to have you play with them." And I said, "Sure. I'll go to Italy. You call me now, I'm over there. I'll be over
Tomorrow
there
morning.
in a second." So, so all of a sudden, this thing is about, I'm going to go and play with these guys. And there's a couple live gigs. So they're calling it Alchimia Project, which means like gold project featuring
Yeah.
Paul Wertico. And I'm like, fine. So I fly over to Italy and we do a couple trio gigs with Fabrizio Moccata and Gianmarco. And the next, like 3 days later, all of a sudden I go the northern of Italy and we're going to do this record. Okay. So I have no idea what this record even is. So I go over there and we end up at this really beautiful warehouse. They've got all these great instruments. I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be fantastic. But we only have 3 days to record before my trio has to finish the rest of the tour. So we set up and I get really nice drum sounds. Everything's fine. And then we're going to record and we're all in the round. Now, this is a warehouse, so some of us are like 50 feet away, and we start trying to play. And I'm thinking, how are we going to record? We've never played together before. If anyone makes a mistake or anything, then we're going to have to keep tracking because that's going to be a problem. So we start playing, and in my headphones, I'm hearing bloop, 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 bloop. So I'm going, oh no, it's the latency from the microphones. So I go,
Gotcha.
okay, this is impossible. We're never going to get this done. So as a producer, I say, okay, now we're going to record. I'm going to produce. So I said, we're going to take this individually. So there was a different guitar player than there was on Dynamics and Meditation. This guy, Alex Monk from England, great. So we try to record a song that first night because the engineer, who's sick, by the way, and also at Chimney Project, 5 people, one of them's got COVID, so he couldn't be there. So I'm thinking, how are we going to get this done? So
Wow.
So we finally record one track, click, isolation, great. And then we have to stop because the engineer has to stop after 8 hours of recording, which is like, here in the States, a lot of times we'll record for, 12 hours or, 16 hours. So the next day we go and record. Now, the trouble is that even though we're at this great hotel, fantastic hotel, it's like 105 degrees outside. And that night I wake up and my air conditioning is not working. And like, it's like 95 degrees in my room. I'm like sweating. It's like, oh, great. So I've got to get up. I get up, tell the hotel, can you fix the air conditioning? Fine. And we go and record some more tracks, and everything's going great. Now we only have like another day to record, basically. And
Mhm.
the guy said, "Oh, we need 60 minutes of music." And I'm going, "What? 60? How are we going to do this?" Because we've only recorded like maybe 40 minutes of music or 45 minutes of music. So anyway, we have to stop. But that night they play me their past recording with a John Cage piece, which is like third construction, which is 11 minutes long. So before that happens, I say, if we need more music, I've got 5 drum solos from my records. I'll have you guys improvise over that. So now I direct and everything. So now we're almost, at 50 minutes of music. Now that next night they fix my air conditioning, but I wake up and it's like, 50 degrees in my room and I'm sick. Now I don't know if I've got COVID or what. So that next day, I say, okay, you played me third construction. I'm just going to improvise over it. So, even though I don't even know it, I don't have no chart or anything. I said, I'll play a brush solo, hit record, and I'll solo or play within the track, which I do first take. So now we have 60 minutes of music, but now I'm also really sick, which I found out later I did have COVID, by the way.
Wow.
But yeah, it was weird. I ended up doing the rest of the tour, but luckily I wore a mask the entire time and I was able to get home and everything was fine. So then I found out later that the label doesn't want to record or doesn't want to put out a couple things. One they think is um, one of it off of the Word of Cocaine and Gray record. They think it's electronic drums. I said, no, 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 it's just prepared drum sets. So they say, okay, that's fine, we'll use it. But then with the Cage piece, they were worried about getting publishing rights. So I said, well, let me contact the Cage people, which I do. And they said, well, send me the track and we'll see. And I sent it and they loved it. And they said, oh, just use it. So now we have 60 minutes of music, right? But now the guy at the label is going, well, we hate the title Alchimia Project. So give me some other titles. And I give him like 40 other titles, which is the one they use. And now all of a sudden, now it's my project. All of a sudden, now I'm not a guest artist thing. It is my project, you know. Then they send me some artwork. There were 3 covers, and I pick out the one I really liked. And next thing you know, it's like it comes out. And I really love that record. I think it's such a, it's one of those things because I love percussion ensembles. Glenn
Mhm.
Cochi from Wilco was one of my students who plays with percussion ensembles everywhere. And he was going, oh man, you should be playing with percussion ensembles all around the world with this. But unfortunately, the label didn't really promote this as much as it should have been. Like I was saying, so you could have great records, but if no one hears it, then
That's
it's
right. Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
beautiful butterfly in the wind that no one sees. But that's how that came about, you know.
Yeah.
Isn't that a
Yeah.
crazy story? It's a great
That's-
story, and everybody's happy. I mean, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I love the way you're producing. You can, because I produce a lot, and I'm really good at producing when things are going weird. In other words, like if I have if I'm playing drums and the client is not a good singer or not a good, keyboard player, and we're playing his charts, I'm really good at fixing things to make it work.
Yeah. You need to have good managerial skill to
I
do
have
that.
great hair. Yeah, no,
Because
I
you
it's
play
weird to
ball with
say, but
a
yeah.
you play ball with a lot of different people.
Yeah, yeah. I
The
mean,
middle,
music makes sense. Music makes sense to me. So I'm able to, that's why I think I'm a good teacher too. I just got my evaluations 2 days ago, and so many people, oh, the best professor I've ever had. And I'm just doing what I do. But I think if your intention is to make everybody win, as opposed to just make you win or you sound good, then everybody's going to be happy with themselves as well as the overall project.
Sure. Looking back in your life, it's easy to look back and change things. But in general, there are people that you wish you have had the opportunity to play with, or if you were a different city at the time, instead of were born in Illinois and versus New York or Los Angeles or whatever. Any because you have played with so many people and you have done very well. Obviously, no regret, but everybody have their favorites, right? So, any project you wish you have the opportunity, or any band, or being a guest with
Yeah.
John, Peter, and Mary, or whatever the names happen to be.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know if I have like a bucket list of people now, because
Yeah.
I'm coming up. I'm playing with Mike Stern now, and I'm playing with Sheila Jordan, all these great. But I think from the past, I would have loved to play with Louis Armstrong.
Wow.
I would love to play with Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
That would. I mean, um, I'm trying to think like Cream, not Cream, but maybe. Let me think. Well, John Coltrane, I would love to have played with him, that would have been great. But and then like even I mean, I'd love to have played with the Who, you know, because the way I play, I kind of play like that. I mean, Keith
That's
Moon
it. Yeah.
was
Yeah.
more of an influence than John Bonham, for instance. I came out of trying to be a lead drummer, not even trying, just I think that way. You know, certain music you play with the bass player in the rhythm section, but a lot of times I play with the front end. I play with the soloists or the
Mm.
vocalist. I always want to know all the lyrics of every song I play with. That would have been fun. Um, but not too many people that I feel like I missed. Just a couple people that really I think musically really spoke to me. I mean, um, people that called me that I never got a chance to go because Pat wouldn't let me, or I just had problems with. I mean, Joe Lovano called me to play with him. Wayne Shorter, Freddie Hubbard. Um,
Wow.
you know, Charlie Hayden wanted me to go to Cuba, which I've never gone to. He wanted me to go, couldn't go. Russ Titleman's the great producer wanted me to do a track with like James Taylor and Milton Nascimento. Pat wouldn't let me go. I mean, there's a lot of things I ended up like not being able to do, unfortunately.
Mm.
But I'm not going to complain. I feel like I've won the lottery in
You
life.
have done well. Yeah. Any funny stories that you can tell our listeners with Pedro Aznar? I think you told me a couple.
Oh, Pedro. Well, it's funny.
Pedro is a very nice guy, very
Oh
funny
my
guy.
God. Yeah, no, I mean Pedro and I, we joined at the same time. So
Yeah.
so that first tour was a pretty crazy tour because we didn't really know the music that much, and
Right.
I won't go into a lot of stuff because but anyway, Pedro and I usually after the show, between the after show meal or even after the show meal, would walk around like say Europe for hours just talking about the music and
Yeah.
and so we were like, great friends because we were both going like, what is going on? We were like each other's psychiatrists in some ways. And yeah, and so like literally, I mean, this last Christmas, I wished him happy Christmas, and he got back to me and stuff. I mean, he's just and Barb, my daughter and my daughter. I mean, my wife Barbara and my daughter Talia. I mean, they love him.
Yeah.
I want to get back to Argentina. I want to get back and play in Chile and Argentina and Brazil. I mean, I miss those places. And Barb's been there, but Talia has never been there, so I'd love to take her and
Yeah.
so she can experience because the culture is great, the food's great, the people is great, the wine is great, you
That's
know.
so,
Yeah,
yeah.
so hopefully, in the next few years or whatever, God willing, that we'll be able to go over there
Yeah.
and
What is coming up for you? Are you quite sure you're working with a lot of different things with
yeah.
different people that ask you to put tracks like that on track here or play a gig and go to a different city or come back to Italy with quite sure you have a lot of things that you're working on at this moment, am I right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, besides like playing gigs with Mike Stern and Sheila,
Yeah.
I mean, Niels Landoki wants me to go over there. There's a lot of Italian projects, but what I did, my wife just bought me for Christmas the Personas 1812C studio because I used to record so much stuff in my house.
I got
And
it.
it got I remodeled my studio and some of the stuff was obsolete, like a Motu, you know, Firewire thing was no longer. So now I've got my studio up and running. So now I'm going to be able to do some of these projects at home in my own leisure time, which is really great because I miss doing that. Because, there's all these projects from all over the world that I've done in my studio, and then I kind of got to, especially teaching and all these things, there's only so many hours in the day and so now I'm going to be able to do that as well as again, I haven't retired, so I've got in a few weeks I'll be teaching the spring 25 courses and all that. So just a
Wow.
lot of great things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mike Stern is going to be playing here in February. Are you coming here? No, no. You play with him or no?
I'm
He's going to
playing here in
Maryland. In
Chicago.
Maryland.
Yeah, I'm playing here in Chicago in February in May, actually.
Yeah, no, he's going to be here in early February, if I remember correctly.
In
In
whereabouts?
in Maryland. I need to look at the venue. I will send you an email with the venue, but I know I will go and see him. I never met the guy, so definitely I wanna.
He's the nicest guy, the greatest guy to play with, man.
Good, that's great. Yeah, he's a
Oh,
very
no.
good
And
person.
him and Lenny, his wife, I mean,
Yeah,
it's that is a fun gig, you know.
yeah.
And, and again, he lets you play the way you play. So even though he's had, these great drummers, you know, Dennis Chambers and Dave Weckl and all these, I mean, so you're in this lineage. I mean, he wants you to play the way you play. So that's and he's just a great, beautiful person, man. It was wonderful.
That's great. If you're ever in the Washington area or the DC area, Virginia, I live in Northern Virginia, feel free to come. You're invited to come to our house for dinner, Paul. You will have, my wife from Colombia, I'm from Chile, so you will have the best Colombian food of your life, so.
Well, same in Chicago, man. And I'm actually a great cook. So yeah,
All right.
you guys have to come over here. We'll cook for you.
Thank you very much. It was
Yeah,
very nice talking to you again, Paul. For sure, we'll do a follow-up interview again. And you are a great musician, a great person. You have done well in your life. You're a teacher as well, so I'm very happy for you, man. You have done well in your life.
thanks, Claudio.
It was
Thanks.
very nice talking to you, man.
Right.
Thank you.
I hope your audience enjoys this and
Absolutely, man.
talk
Absolutely.
soon, man.
You should write like an autobiography. You
Well,
think
everybody asked me to do that. I know I should.
yeah, you have so many stories, man.
I know. It's just a matter. I should probably sit down with someone that types fast because I'm still like two-finger typer.
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
But no, I would love to do that at some point. That would be great
yeah.
if anyone cares.
No, people do.
Okay. Ciao, my friend. Okay.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very
Ciao.
much. Thank you very much.